everyone. Back to Old Men Stories. And I have the opportunity to talk to someone that was in Pelican Rapids. What would you say, about 80 years ago?
Not quite that long.
Not quite that long.
About 30 years ago.
No, about 80 years ago. You were about, what, 18 when you were here? 14?
Well, maybe so.
Maybe 14. That's 80 years. There probably wasn't anything here, hardly, was there? Okay. I'm going to see, we're going to look right here. See this? We're going to look, and this thing should be blue. See, it's steady blue. That means that we're recording. Okay? So I'm going to put this over here because your voice is much lower than mine. There we go.
Okay.
Are you all set with that?
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay. Now, Dave and I always love your stories because he and I will share them. And they always seem to be different about the same thing. So, these are stories about you back in Roseau. And you shared with me the story about your horse.
Oh, yeah.
You want to share that?
That was Nancy. Well, in Roseau, years ago when I was a girl, we did have a lot of fences around. We'd had people who had cattle. They took the cattle out, and the children would take and go on horseback and watch the cattle, for they wouldn't go in somebody else's field. So it was my turn. So I was out. I was about maybe 6 years old, and we had about maybe 40 head of cattle, and I had my horse Nancy. And she was with me. I couldn't climb up on her, so she put her neck down, and I get in the back of her neck, and she put her neck up, and I slid her back. So this time, we were watching them, and this, I don't know what it was, whether it was a little wolf or something, it scared the cattle. So they start running, and they're running towards us. And if they'd got to me, they ran me down. But the horse, I was standing in front of the horse, and he took and put his head like this, and put me underneath his chest. So as the cows went by on his side, they were much smaller than the horse was, and so we got by with it. If I'd have been anywhere loose, there out in the open, they'd have killed me because they were coming so fast. So I always favored that horse. She was my favorite all her life, and when she got older. Oh, I don't know how old she was, but she had a little one, a little colt, and that little colt was the most beautiful thing in the whole world. But I grew up, and as you grow up, you leave those things behind, and you go inside to the country, you go to the cities. But I still remember how wonderful it was on a farm. But we didn't have nothing. Just we lived on a farm, and it was. To me, it was wonderful when I think as a child. But we'd have no electricity. We didn't have no bathrooms. We didn't have even a good barn. Our barn was even then good, but it was good enough for us. One time I can remember. Was I supposed to stop now?
Keep going.
Oh, one day I remember my father was out in the field, and he yelled at me, "Get the gun! Get the gun!" And I thought, and he saw a deer. And I thought he said, "Run, run, run." So I started running to beat the dickens. But he wasn't running. I was running towards him. But that ain't what he wanted. He wanted the gun. Oh, there are a lot of times out there. I had wonderful.
What do you want the gun for?
He shoots at the deer. Because he was working in the field, and the deer came. We had a lot of deers and bears and everything. Well, I'll tell you another thing that happened. Of course, I always had a lot to say. And by this day, our school was about a mile and a half from us. If we went through the country, and on the way, there's some old buildings there, but we used to cross the old buildings and get to school. We never had any buses, such a thing as that. We went. So this morning, I remember, I had an older sister, May, and an older brother, Virgil, but they were sick. They couldn't go. So I was going to go to school, and my father said, "No, you don't go." But you know me, I had to go. So I started out down to going to school. I had to cross these, go across where these buildings were. They weren't being used, I think. But my father got me before I got there. He took me home. And I just found out the next day, one of the neighbors said there was a whole group of foxes, wolves was in their buildings. They got there the night before. And I'd have never made it to school that day if I'd have been left to go by myself. But I wasn't. So, you know, when you're young, you can think of an awful lot. A lot of funny things happen. One time, my mother used to make bread, you know. That day she'd buy bread. And she wanted to get cooled off so she could put it away. So she'd put it on the steps to go upstairs. So and the window was open there for the window to come in and give good air to the bread. So I was upstairs, but I came down, when I see that bread there, I kind of walked funny, and I fell. I fell on a bucksaw. And I said, "I'm here." You still say I was only about 6 years old, but he took me to town, and they didn't do nothing but put boric acid powder on it. That's all he put in it. And he put it back together, no sewing up or anything. And it came home, and you know, that healed. I got all the strength. That's my best strength. I'm left-handed. So that was one of the things that happened as a child. And I can remember that so well. And I remember one thing else. My dad was a very good-natured man. He used to put up with us kids an awful lot. But this one time, they made us a beautiful swing. It was big swings, you know, the seats on both ends of it. And I had wanted both seats, and my brother, who was older, said, "No, you don't get it." And so he took, I said, I left it. I went to the horses. They were hitching up the horses for some. And he took the wheelbarrow, and he ran it into me. My father seen that, and he gave it a licking. That's the only licking I ever seen my father give it to anybody. I was so embarrassed. My brother got a licking. I was scared to death that he was going to get after me, but he didn't. So funny things happen, and you'll remember them as you get older. And that's when you get my age. It's all you have to do is to remember. You got nothing else to do. So I remember all the horrible things that happened. And there were wonderful things. We go to town. We live 6 miles north of Roseville, Minnesota. You know how far north that is. And I can remember we went to town. My mother got sick. We had a horse and buggy. And here I was on the front driving the horse. The horses knew the way home. They were going by themselves, but I thought I was driving them, going 50 per down the street, down the road. And I was so big and strong at that time. I thought it was just wonderful. Of course, things happen, and there's many things. I could go on and on and on for all what happened as a girl, a little girl. I remember I used to take and have a nipple, and I remember we had not a bathroom. It was they were digging it out for a well. And I dropped it down there. I'll never forget that. I was about 6 years old, because I can remember that myself. And I can remember my mother said, don't cry, you'll find it. I forgot. I think I don't think I ever got it back. I ever had one back, but I remembered that. That stuck with me.
That's wonderful, Mom.
Oh, gosh. Of course, when you get old, you forget a lot of things. Thank goodness for that.
Isn't that wonderful? Thank you, Mom. That was absolutely beautiful.